lot of people have been traveling. Here we are in the holiday season now. There it is right there. Let's see. We're in Joshua chapter 4. Joshua's moving right along. Moving quick. Over the next month, we'll probably get through Joshua, I would imagine. We'll see. It's going to be close. Let's see. Yeah. Are you ready? Let's do it. Then the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, command the priests who bear the ark of the testimony to come up from the Jordan. Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, come up from the Jordan. And it came to pass, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord had come from the midst of Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed all of its banks as before. Now the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took up out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. Then he spoke to the children of Israel, saying, when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel crossed over this Jordan on the dry land. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you crossed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed over. That all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord, that it is as mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever. So it was, when all the kings of the Amorites who were on the west side of the Jordan, and all the kings of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan from before the children of Israel until we had crossed over, that their heart melted, and there was no spirit in them any longer because of the children of Israel. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives for yourselves and circumcise the sons of Israel again the second time. So Joshua made flint knives for himself and circumcised the sons of Israel at the hill of the foreskins. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. Watch this. All the people who came out of Egypt, who were males, all the men of war, had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. For all the people who had come out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness on the way as they come out of Egypt had not been circumcised. Remember we talked about this? All the people that came out of the children of Israel had come out this side. They were not born in the transition. They were born in Egypt. Those people that were born in Egypt were circumcised. However, the men that were born in the wilderness in transition were not. So they had to go through a circumcision as well. So God told Joshua, hey, this is how we're going to do this. As soon as you cross over this dry land and you're following the priests, when we get to that side now, it's time that we're going to have to circumcise. You can't escape circumcision. The first one was circumcision of the flesh. This one here is a type and shadow or an example of being circumcised of the heart. Now watch this. For all the people who had come out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Egypt had not been circumcised. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness till all the people who were men of war who came out of Egypt were consumed because they did not obey the voice of the Lord, to whom the Lord swore that he would not show them the land which the Lord had sworn to their fathers that he would give us, a land that's flowing with milk and honey. Then Joshua circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place, for they were uncircumcised. In other words, they were not covenanted with God, because they had not been circumcised on the way. So it was, when they had finished circumcising all the people, that they stayed in their places in the camp till they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua, this day, look at this day, I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. Therefore, the name of this place is called Gilgal to this day. And I want to talk about this just for a brief moment. To this day, I've rolled back the reproach of Egypt off of you. What he's really saying is this, listen, Your fathers were in Egypt. They came out of Egypt and were in the wilderness for 40 years. While they were in the wilderness for 40 years, even though they were not in Egypt, Egypt had such an impression on them that they had a lot of Egypt still in their mind. So they still had memories. They still had ways of thinking. They still had thought processes. They still had functioning, life functioning issues, dysfunctional issues, if you will. So they still had a frame of reference, or they saw life from coming from an Egypt perspective, and they were in the wilderness. So they didn't have to function outside. And it's typical as somebody that comes out of the world, they hear the gospel, they get saved, and then most of the time the church, we expect them just to start walking in salvation and not realizing that they still have a lot of the world inside of them. Even though their heart has changed, they still have to renew their mind. They still have to get their mind of the world out of their own ways of thinking. Well, Egypt was. Well, the children that had been born in transition says, hey, we're going to go across this Red Sea. These people were not born in Egypt. They had all the stories of Egypt, even though they weren't born in Egypt. So today, when they crossed over and they were healed of their circumcision, the Bible says this day that all the reproach of Egypt was been rolled off of you. In other words, your ancestors, your generations, all of that is not on you today. When you walk in the Spirit, this is what it's saying. When you walk in the Spirit, all of the things of the past truly are wiped away. Does that make sense? You know what you're saying? Yeah, but I still got to deal with some of this stuff. Yeah, you have to deal with it because it's still there. However, it can't hurt you. It has to work for your good. Make sense? Okay? This day, all of the reproach of Egypt is rolled off you. Now the children of Israel camped in Gilgal, and they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at twilight on the plains of Jericho. And they ate of the produce of the land on the day after the Passover, unleavened bread and parched grain on the very same day. What's this? Then the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the produce of the land, and the children of Israel no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. Now, this is very, very critical, okay? Very, very important. When you receive Christ, which is basically what this is a picture of, when you receive Christ, it's one thing having the reproach of the world, of your sins, rolled off of you. And God provides for you every day. He's the man of heaven. He is all of that, okay? But to enter into the kingdom, and when I'm talking about the kingdom, I'm talking about the land that flows with milk and honey for your life, the promises, the personal desires that God has set up for you. It is not going to happen by just sitting around waiting on it to happen. Okay? You have to apply. You have to lean in. You have to engage. You have to. It's not going to happen just by sitting around wondering what's going to happen. The day they crossed over, the day they were circumcised, which renewed their covenant with God, the day they began to eat, they ate of the Passover, then they saw what was in the land. They saw that the land was good. They saw that the land was of God. They saw the land was of promise. They eat of the produce, and when they took of the produce the next day, the manna had stopped. The manna fed them in the wilderness for 40 years, but it wasn't going to take them into the promised land. See, there comes a time in your life when it's one thing you're getting all your needs met, just barely getting by daily, and you're going, thank you, Lord, for your daily meat. Then there's a time when God wants you to prosper. In other words, everything that's in front of you is available to you, but you got to go in and possess it. And there's a big difference in just everything, okay, God, whatever you want me to have, and then you're not really dreaming based on what he gives you to dream. You're just taking the handouts that come from whatever else the kingdom wants to drop on your lap. Is that okay? In other words, you can stay right here and get manna, and you'll have your daily provision met. But God's will is not just for you to have your daily provision. He is your provision, and everything ahead of you is bigger than you can imagine, but you're going to have to go and engage in it to get it. There is not a gain if there's no reward, if there's no risk. Okay? And the hardest part for people to live in the Christian walk is to Do I go forward and engage, or do I wait on the Lord? Do I wait on him, or do I go forward? You do both. You wait on the Lord as you're going forward. Right? Does that make sense? Well, what if the door closed in my face? Well, there'll be another one open. What if it just doesn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out? Well, then God has a way of working it out. It's just not possible for you to lose if your intentions and motivations are right as you move forward into the things of God. You can't lose. Just impossible. Well, I wish I'd never done that. Well, maybe you shouldn't have. However, it'll work out to your advantage if you go forward. Okay? The manna ceased. There comes a time when you got to engage. You got to go forward. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man stood opposite of him with a sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us, or are you for our adversaries?" So he said, "No, but as a commander of the army of the Lord of hosts, Lord, I have now come." And Joshua fell on his face on the earth and worshipped and said to him, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" Then the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, "Take your sandal off your foot, for the place where you stand is holy." And Joshua did so. Now Jericho was securely shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out, none came in. It had a wall. And the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand, its king and the mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all men of war. You shall go all around the city once. This you shall do 6 days." They're going to march around the city every day for 6 days, one time. Okay? "And 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. But the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets." Now, all my life I heard that they walked around the city 7 times in 7 days. They walked around the city 6 times, 1 per day, for 6 days. But on the 7th day, they did it 7 times. That make sense? You get that? How many of you thought it was just 7 times? Just most of my life I've thought, hey, they just walked once a day for 7 days. On that 7th day, they shouted and it all come tumbling down. No, they went around 6 days, 1 time a day. On the 7th day, 7 times. Now watch. It came to pass when they make the long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, that all the people shall shout with a great shout. Then the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up every man straight before him. Then Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests and said to him, "Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram horns before the ark of the Lord." And he said to the people, "Proceed and march around the city, and let him who is armed advance before the ark of the Lord." So it was, when Joshua had spoken to his people, that the 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the Lord advanced and blew the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. The armed men went before the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard came after the ark, while the priests continued blowing the trumpets. Now Joshua had commanded the people, saying, "You shall not shout or make any noise with your voice, nor shall a word proceed out of your mouth until the day I say to you, shout, then you're going to shout." So he had the ark of the Lord circle the city, going around it once. Then they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. And Joshua rose up early in the morning, and the priests took up in the ark of the Lord. Then the 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went on continually and blew with trumpets, and the armed men went before them, but the rear guard came after the ark of the Lord, while the priests continued blowing the trumpet. And the 2nd day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did this 6 days. Now, here's the kids' Bible verse, or Bible story. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and he got all of his men, and the Ark of the Covenant, Ark of the presence of God, Ark of the testimony, went around, and the people all marched really silently around the Ark of the Covenant, around the city walls, 6 days in a row. But the Bible says here that the trumpets were blowing, the horns were blowing. See, have you guys ever been taught that? that the actual horns did blow. The trumpets blew around the whole city, but the people didn't say anything. So the only noise that was going forward was the sound of the horns, right? Go back one verse if you don't mind. Then the 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went on continually and blew with the trumpets. And the armed men went before them. But the rear guard came up after the ark of the Lord while the priests continued blowing. See what happened? They were still blowing the trumpets. And the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did this 6 days. But it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early, about the dawning of the day, and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. On the day that only they marched around the city 7 times. And the 7th time it happened, when the priests blew the trumpets, that Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you this city. Now the city shall be doomed by the Lord to destruction, it and all who are in it. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all who are with her house, because she had hid the messengers that we sent. And you, by all means, abstain from the accursed thing, lest you become accursed when you take of the cursed things and make the camp of Israel a curse and trouble it. But all the silver and golden vessels and the bronze of iron are consecrated to the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord." So the people shouted when the priest blew the trumpet, and it happened when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and all the people shouted with a great shout that the wall fell down flat. Then the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said to the 2 men who had spied out the country, "Go into the harlot's house, and from there bring out the woman and all that she has, and you swore that she has, as you swore to her." And the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father, her mother, her brothers, and all that she had. So they brought out all the relatives and left outside the camp of Israel. Left them outside. But they burned the city and all that was in with fire. Only the silver and the gold and the vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. Now watch this. And Joshua spared Rahab the harlot, her father's household, and all that she had. So she dwells in the Israels to this day, because she hid the messengers from Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Then Joshua charged them at that time, saying, "Cursed be the man before the Lord who rises up and builds this city Jericho. He shall lay its foundation with its firstborn, and with his youngest he shall set up his gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout all the country. Now here's the story. Do you guys remember this very well? We talked about this just a few weeks ago. Joshua was ready to go and take the city, the promised land. What he did was he sent 2 spies over, and 2 spies go over to Rahab's house. Rahab was a prostitute. They get in. She hides them in her house from the people that were looking for him. Then they come back and tell everybody, "Hey, Jericho is the way to go. We can take this. Rahab hid us in here, but we made a covenant with her, a deal with her, that because she hid us in this and kept us hidden from the enemy, we're going to save her house as long as she has the thread coming down from her window, the scarlet thread from her window." Well, they come back and they tell Joshua. Joshua's okay with that. Everybody's happy. Now they're crossing over the Red Sea. They're doing it in a time. God is saying to Joshua, "I'm going to be with you like I was with Moses, and these people are going to know it." Joshua said, "I'll go forward and do this, but you got to be with me like you were with Moses. I don't want to do this on my own." So he gives him a strategy, and he says, "Listen, you're going to take the Ark of the Covenant and the priests. They're going to be leading this thing. They're going to cross over on dry ground. The people are going to be about a couple hundred yards behind them, a couple football fields behind them. And as the presence of God crosses over that water, as soon as the priest's feet hit the waters are going to part, and the people are going to walk over on dry ground." So the presence of God. So the principle here is, wherever the presence of God and the Spirit of God leads, the people will follow. So as you're following after the presence of the Lord, the Spirit of God, he's going to lead you into a place that is full of prosperity and life and joy for you. It's your dream. It's your passion. It's the things that you have. It's the good things he has set aside for you. So they crossed over on dry ground. They reconnected and recovenanted themselves with God, because this generation that was there did not have circumcision, which a circumcision is a token of a covenant with God. It's a cutting of the foreskin or the flesh This time they're going to cross over and they're going to be circumcised. When they were circumcised, God said to Joshua, it's time to go forward. Now the first city of the 10 provinces is Jericho. Jericho was cursed back in the book of Genesis because they wouldn't let Abraham go through, and neither would they let Moses go through. That city was not going to, when they were traveling around, they said, no, you're not coming here. So Jericho had been cursed by God for several reasons. So that curse carried forward all the way to that day. So they were cursed in Genesis. Now you're going to see the curse come to fruition in the life of the people. So Joshua says, here's the deal. This is one of 10 provinces, 1/10 of the province of the land that God's going to give us. There's 10 provinces here. We're going to take all 10 of these, but this first one is cursed, and this curse belongs to the Lord. This is where you get a principle that you probably haven't heard maybe too much about, is the tithe, okay? So God says, listen, everything in the city I don't want, but I do want the bronze, the gold, the silver, all of those things. I want you to bring them into the treasury because I'm going to use those for not only next time, but I'm going to use them for now because I don't want you bringing that stuff, that curse upon yourself. So put the curse upon me, God said. So the 10% you bring back, this city, that curse is going to be on me, and then I'm going to give you all the other 90% to do what you want. It's kind of where you get the tithe. It's one of the places you see hearing about tithe. It's 1/10 of walking in the Spirit belongs to the Lord, and now what God is saying is, listen, I'm going to bless you, but that 10% or that first 10% of the city is cursed. You put it on me, and then the rest of the 90% is going to belong to you and the children of Israel. Okay? So they go in, they take the city, they go around it, they walk around it 6 times in 6 days with the trumpet blowing. On the 7th day, they go around 7 times. So on the 7th time, of the 7th day, the wall come tumbling down, you know the story, and then they go in and take all the city. They bring all the bronze, the gold, and the silver, and everything comes back to the Lord. So here's what happened. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout all the country. But the children of Israel committed a trespass regarding the accursed things. For Achan, there was a guy named Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, from the tribe of Judah, took the accursed things, so the anger of the Lord burned against the children of Israel. Watch this. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Bethaven, on the east side of Bethel, and spoke to them, saying, go up and spy out the country. So the men went up and spied out Ai. And they returned to Joshua and said to him, do not let all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and attack Ai. Do not weary. All the people there, for a few people of Ai, there's just a few people in Ai. They're small. So about 3,000 men went up there from the people, but they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai struck down about 36 men, for they chased them from before the gate as far as Shipparim, and struck them down down on the descent, before the hearts of the people melted and became like water. Here's what happened. There's only about 3,000 of these people up there, or 32,000? How many were people there? Let's go back again. Beginning of this chapter. And they returned to Joshua and did not let the people go up. There's about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and attack. Do not worry. There's only a few of them. So Joshua says, they look at the people, they go, God, we took Jericho here by walking around the city. We went up and spied this city out up on the hill, up on the mountain. And there's only a few of them. We can take them. We don't need all the people. Not everybody needs to war here. Let's just go ahead and take a few. So they took 3,000 people. They go up to 3,000 people, go up to fight, and look what happens. 3,000 men went up there for the people, but they fled. They ran from the people of Ai. And the men of Ai struck them down. About 36 men died, for they chased them from before the gates as far as the Shibbarim, and struck them down to the descent. Therefore the hearts of the people melted. These people started running. 32 men die, and these 3,000 men are running from this city of Ai. And I can't figure out why they're running, because it doesn't make sense. Joshua takes an entire city. God, was with Joshua the entire time of Jericho. The walls come tumbling down by marching around it with the trumpet and the Ark of the Covenant. And now we're sending 3,000 people up on this city, after we've sent spies up there to see that there's only a few in number, and 32 guys get killed, and now all these people are running, and the Israelites are running for their life because the people of Ai either were too tough or something was wrong. So it says, therefore the hearts of people melted and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell on the earth on his face before the ark of the Lord until evening. And he said, he and the elders of Israel, and they put dust on their heads. And Joshua said, alas, Lord God, why have you brought this people over the Jordan at all, to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us? Oh, that we have been content and that dwelt on the other side of Jordan. Now look, this is exactly what the children of Israel were saying in the wilderness. It had been easier for us to stay over there in Egypt. Why in the world did you bring us here? Now Joshua, the man of a different spirit, the man leading in charge, the city walls just fell down. And Joshua gets a defeat looking like, my God, what's happening here? 32 men have died. 3,000 less than 32 are running back to us. And it looks like we've just taken over. And God, why in the world would you bring us? Now here's Joshua and the elders getting before the Lord. Why in the world would you have brought us here to lose when there's something not right? Why would you bring us here? Why even bring us over and give us the taste of victory and then give us the defeat? We'd have been better off just staying over on the other side of Jordan. Things were better over there. We didn't have to fight this. What's the story? Now, this is the same guy that was ready to take him and say, we can take him now. See what happens when you run into a problem, when you run into a situation in life. Isn't it easy to forget how God has done some incredible things for your life when the last thing it looks like he hasn't done is not working for your favor? You know what I mean? You got 1,000 things he's done, and now you're ready for this next one, and it doesn't work out like you think it should. Something's not quite right. And we go back and say, okay, God, why in the world? I should have just stopped on my journey. It's not God's will for you to stop on your journey just because it doesn't look like it's working the way you think it should work. His testimony is not just past. Every occurrence in your life is building a testimony, is a memorial for him. It's an opportunity for him to be who he's supposed to be, even though it's not working the way you think it should. Now watch this. Oh Lord, what shall I say when Israel turns its back before its enemies? For the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land will hear it and surround us and cut off our name from the earth. Then what will we do for your great name? So the Lord said to Joshua, get up. What you light on your face? Quit feeling sorry for yourself. Israel has sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant which I commanded them, for they have even taken some of the accursed things and have been both stolen and deceived. And they've also put it among their own stuff. They mingled what was cursed with their stuff. Therefore the children of Israel could not stand before their own enemies, but turn their backs before the enemies. Because they have become doomed to destruction, neither will I be with you anymore unless you destroy the cursed from among you. Get up, sanctify the people, and say, sanctify yourselves for tomorrow, because thus saith the Lord of God of Israel, there is an accursed thing in your midst, O Israel. You cannot stand before your enemies until you take away the accursed thing from among you. In the morning, therefore, you shall be brought according to your tribes, and that shall be that the tribe which the Lord takes shall come according to the families, and the family which the Lord takes shall come by households, and the households which the Lord shall take shall come by man. What's this? Then it shall be that he who is taken with the accursed thing shall be burned with fire, he and all that he has, because he has transgressed the covenant of the Lord, and because he has done a disgraceful thing in Israel. So Joshua rose early in the morning and brought Israel by their tribes, and the tribe of Judah was taken. He brought the clan of Judah, and he took the family of the Zarites, and he brought the family of the Zarites man by man, and Zabdi was taken. Then he brought his household man by man, and Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah was taken. Now Joshua said to Achan, my son, I beg you, give glory to the Lord God of Israel, and make confession to him, and tell me now what you have done. Do not hide it from me. And Achan answered Joshua and said, indeed, I have sinned against the Lord of God of Israel, and this is what I have done. When I saw among the spoils a beautiful Babylonian garment, Babylonian is religion, is a type and shadow of religion. When I saw the religious garment, 200 shekels of silver, money, and a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted in my heart them, and I took them. And they are hidden in the earth in the midst of my tent with the silver underneath it. So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent, and there it was, hidden in his tent with the silver under it. And they took them from the midst of the tent, brought them to Joshua and to all the children of Israel, and laid them out before the Lord. Then Joshua and all the Israel with him took Achan the son of Zerah, the silver, the garment, the wedge of gold, his sons, his daughters, his oxen, his donkeys, his sheep, his tent, and all that he had. And they brought them to the valley of Achor. And Joshua said, why have you troubled us? The Lord will trouble you this day. So all Israel stoned him with the stones, and they burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. Then they raised over him a great heap of stones, still there to this day. So the Lord turned from the fierceness of his anger. Therefore, the name of that place has been called the Valley of Achor to this day. Now the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid nor to be dismayed. Take all the people of war with you and arise, go up to Ai. See, I have given it into you, your hand, the king of Ai, the people, the city, and his land. You see what happened? It was a clear, easy battle for Joshua, but why was it so hard? Because there was something that had not been done right. The battle was put all this stuff, this gold, this silver, all this stuff inside the treasury because it's all cursed. And because it's cursed, you don't have it, you can't mix what's cursed in with your life. You can't dabble in a little bit of world and a little bit of God. Now, the church, in some regard, in the last decade, has, in our quest to love people and in our quest to be a little more seeker-sensitive, I think would be the right term for a church world, in our quest for all of that, we become a little bit more tolerant, and somehow we've lost a little bit of what's right is right and wrong is wrong, and everything's so gray. And I think what you're going to find is there's going to be a major separation of that kind of stuff. Not that you're not loving people, but you just can't love what's wrong just because people are doing what's wrong. You've got to love people enough to tell them what's right and what's wrong. That makes sense? And there's just a lot of things that convict people 10 years ago that don't convict people today. And it's because, and again, don't get me wrong, there are some things the church has called sin years ago that's not sin, but there are some things that are just flat out sin. And people need to know it's sin. So you can't dabble a little bit in the world, mix it in a little bit with your holiness, and then expect everything to go your favor. It's just not, because a little leaven will leaven the whole lump. Is that okay? We don't talk a whole lot about sin in the church anymore, and I don't like to give the devil a lot of accolades either when we do, but the reality of it is, if you're right with the Lord, there's just some things in your life that just don't need to be there. Is that okay? It just doesn't. And the more you tolerate, the more it'll just increase. And the more it increases, and finally it'll just take over your life, and it'll be a self-destructive thing. So just thought I'd throw that in there for free this morning. It's for all of you that might like that. So if the battle is supposed to have been easy, there's two things that I've kind of learned in my life. Either if it's not happening easy, and it's supposed to be easy, you're either out of time or you're not doing it the right way. And I've learned that they look alike. And you just have to trust the Lord. So that, you can always be doing some kind of personal inventory all the time, trying to get stuff out of your life. And I think you probably should do personal inventory. But the reality of it is that you just have to keep moving forward and not be so hard on yourself if nothing is coming to your mind. And you have to be careful who you yoke yourself up with. Who do you connect yourself with? Who are you connected to? Who are you? Who's speaking into your life and whose life you're speaking into? You see people all the time that are, you know, in the name of I want to help somebody, and then the person that they're trying to help ends up taking the person down that they were trying to help. And you can only help people that are really in a position that can be helped and want to be helped, but you also have to be strong enough to be able to help them. Otherwise, I know a girl right now, a lady been saved for years and years and years, and she had this, felt like God told her to marry this guy that was on drugs, and going to bring him out, evangelize him. And, it wasn't scripture to me to evangelize him, but she tried. And next thing I know, she's talking to me about being on drugs. She needs help. And this is somebody that was really, really strong. But after a while, that little bit of that stuff starts getting all over you. And before you know it, you're not only dragging others down, you're dragging yourself down. Okay? So, nobody likes to talk about this part of Joshua. Everybody likes to talk about Joshua as the wall's coming down. But the reality of it is, Joshua was told to put that stuff away. And he had somebody in the camp that was not right and had wrong motivations. He was doing some things sneaky. And when he did, it brought heartache on everybody because the whole city was supposed to win. The whole tribe was supposed to win. The whole nation was supposed to win. And because they didn't win and weren't winning, now look what happens next. Now God says, now I'm with you. These people are afraid of you, so you shall do to Ai and its kings as you did to Jericho and its king. Only its spoil and its cattle you shall take as booty for yourself. Lay an ambush for the city behind it. So Joshua rose and the people of war to go up against that Ai, and Joshua chose 30,000 mighty men of valor and sent them away by night. He wasn't about to go 3,000 this time. And he commanded them, saying, behold, you shall lie in ambush against the city. Behold, the city. Behind the city, do not go very far from the city, but you are ready to be, but all of you be ready. Then I and all the people who are with me will approach the city, and it will come out. And when they come out against us, as they at first, that we shall flee before them. For they will come out after us till we have drawn them from the city. For they will say, they are fleeing before us at first, therefore we will flee before them. Then you shall rise up from the ambush and seize the city, for the Lord your God will deliver it into your hand. And it will be, when you have taken the city, that you shall set the city on fire according to the commandments of the Lord. You shall do. See, I have commanded you. Watch this. Joshua therefore sent them out, and they went to lie in the ambush and stayed between Bethel and Ai, on the west side of Ai. But Joshua lodged that night among the people. Then Joshua rose up early in the morning and mustered the people, and went up, and he and the elders of Israel before the people to Ai. And all the people of war who were with him went up and drew near, and they camped before the city and camped on the north side of Ai. Now a valley lay between them and Ai. So he took about 5,000 men and set them in an ambush between Bethel and Ai on the west side of the city. And when they had set the people, all the army that was on the north of the city, and its rear guard on the west of the city, Joshua went that night into the midst of the valley. Joshua goes in between them. Now it happened, when the king of Ai saw it, that the men of the city hurried and rose early and went out against Israel to battle, he and all his people, at an appointed place before the plain, but he did not know that otherwise an ambush against him behind the city. And Joshua and all the people of Israel made as if they were beaten before them and fled by the way of the wilderness. So all the people who were in Ai were called together to pursue them. They pursued Joshua and drawn away from the city. There was not a man left in Ai or in Bethel who did not go out after Israel. So they left the city open and pursued Israel. Then the Lord said to Joshua, stretch out the spear that is in your hand toward Ai, for I will give it to your hand, into your hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that was all in his hand toward the city. Watch this. So those in ambush arose quickly out of their place. They ran as soon as he had stretched out the hand, and they entered the city and took it and hurried to set the city on fire. See what happened? Joshua takes 5,000 guys with him. He gets down in the valley between Ai and Bethel, and he's laying down in this ditch. He's down in this valley. He's setting them up for a defeat. He surrounds the entire city, and he says, listen, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these guys up. I'm going to let myself be known to them by night. They're going to come after us because they've already heard about us, and they've already whipped 32 men, and 3,000 of us ran away. I got 5,000 this time, so it'll be just like a replay. So they go up. Joshua makes himself known, taunts them a little bit. Everybody in the city of Ai comes running after them. All the soldiers, all the men come running after them. When they do, Joshua runs away just like the last time, as if they were losing. And they were running away again. This time the guys followed them. When they did, boom, Joshua had men from behind come in and burn the city and took it before they even knew what hit them. See, that was the difference between the first time and the last time. Make sense? It's good stuff, isn't it? It is. Let's talk real quickly. Let's stop right there for just a moment. Let's talk real quickly about this for just a second. I want you to realize, or at least get this in your head. This is a picture of Joshua. Joshua means Yeshua, which is Jesus or salvation. I want you to get this picture in your mind about Joshua leading and Joshua directing, and see yourself in your life in these positions, right? We're moving into a place, and I think we all are, and you are as well, moving into a place where all this opportunity is going to be so available for you. There's a land that God has that flows with milk and honey. That's really not just for the children of Israel. That is for his people, his kids, his children, us, in the New Testament, in the new life, in the new covenant, which is us. Here's the challenge. The challenge is you're standing here looking at your future, and your future looks bright, but it also looks dim. You see every obstacle that's in its way. You see things that have come from behind that have snuck up on you. You look for decisions that you've made that maybe are not so good, that are still creeping up behind you. You've got some penalties and some punitive damages that have occurred because of some bad decisions. You've got people that are turned on you, turned against you. You've got decisions that you've made that you're in between on and transition. But nevertheless, you're looking at your future and you're going, okay, here's where my life is right now as a snapshot. And here's where I want it to be, and I know where I've been. And you're looking at this thing going, God, how do I ever get to where I'm supposed to go based on the circumstances that I'm faced with right now? Well, first thing you have to ground yourself in, you have to settle this as an anchor in your heart, is number one, the future that God has for you is good. That land of promise is not just a story in Joshua. That land of promise is a land, and when I say a land, I'm talking about it's an occupancy, it's an experiential life for you, for me, for us, collectively as well as individually, for your family, for you. It's a place where God just has a place in life for you that is good. It's not testing you, and he's not always working, trying to get you to do things so he can show you how bad of stuff you got in your life. It's not that's not what he's doing. He's got good things planned for you in your life ahead of you. He knew he was getting you when he got you, when he picked you. He knew your weaknesses when he took you. He knew your tendencies and your inclinations. He knew all of that. But the most important thing is you have to ground yourself as saying, I know where I am, and I know where I'm going, and I don't know how to necessarily get there, but I do know that there is good. It's got peace. It's got joy. It's got fulfillment. It's good. I know that. If you could ground yourself in it, then you don't become suspect, or won't become suspect of God when the journey gets a little difficult along the way, or when things don't turn out the way you think they are, or the Lord's slowing you down when you're trying to speed up, or he's speeding you up when you're trying to slow down, or maybe you're standing there and he's trying to get you to move when you're not wanting to move, or cut that relationship off, or start this relationship, or get in that job, or quit that job. It's this. And you got to trust in the Lord, knowing you have to be grounded in your future that God has for you is good. You have to know that. But I don't see it. It doesn't matter if you see it right now. You just have to know blindly that it's good. But I don't. You don't know what I've had so many disappointments. I know, but that cannot be the basis of what you believe for your future. You have to see and believe in your heart that God is good and he's working for you in every circumstance and situation. If you can settle on that, then when things start moving forward for you and you're moving forward and things start opening up, then you feel like, okay, I can handle this. And then when you get a disappointment, it's not the end all. It is just actually either the enemy trying to slow you down or stop you, or it could be God trying to slow you down or stop you. But yet, nevertheless, the promises that the Lord has for you are good. Now, what we're seeing is, and just prophetically, I can tell you this. If you're seeing a country that is in major transition, my gosh, a lot of it is shifting back to original intents of the way the country was founded. Other things are a little bit more progressive, if you will, in its approach. But you're going to see, the last election cycle, not this past one, but the one before it, when Obama was elected, many people were tired, didn't want to hear what a 70-year-old had to say. We need a young, vibrant, fresh ideas. Man, that's what we need in it. And a lot of people voted for young, great, fresh ideas, which was good. I mean, nothing wrong with young, fresh ideas. But now you notice that people weren't, talking about Trump being 70. Nobody was talking about that. And it didn't become a topic because you've got somebody that's proven successful, but what you have is you got a generation of people that were many of the Democrat side, or they weren't even Democrats. I don't think a lot of them were voting for Bernie Sanders. I mean, Bernie Sanders like 75 or something. Okay, so they're looking past all of that. What people are looking for today, and I think so are you. No matter where you are in your life, age, wherever, you're retired, not retired, or going to retire, don't let that kind of thing stop you, because your voice is going to increase in the land, no matter what age you're in or what tenure of service you're in, as long as you have two things. You have the presence of the Lord on your life, and it's noticeable, and number two, you have wisdom. Wisdom and revelation, which is the presence of God, are going to be the two principal things as we move forward in this next lifespan, age of life, this next decade of what God is doing. Wisdom and revelation. Revelation meaning experiential revelation of your life. The demonstration and evidence of God being in your life. You're going to see it happen. And I just want to encourage you as you go forward is that you have to ground yourself in one thing for sure, is your future is good, regardless of your age, your background, your circumstances, whether it be socioeconomic circumstances or just flat out from the wrong side of the tracks on the family or made some bad decisions. Your future is going to be bright. It just is. There is hope for everybody. And I think when you're going to see heaven and earth are starting to line up a little bit, and when you see that, you're going to see opportunity that's bigger than you can ever imagine. Because I think some of us are settling for just enough to make us get by, when God is saying, I don't want you to settle for just getting by. I want you to settle for what I have for you, which is more than enough. And it's not necessarily money. I'm talking about peace and joy and all those things. So let me encourage you today. As we have even a service, we have a family service today. All the kids and stuff will be in here as well. I want to encourage you today to let the Lord speak to you. And over the next 4 weeks, in the month of December, I'm going to begin a series of messages on Sunday morning about leading up to Christ. And what was the circumstances that led up to Jesus right before, and what caused the change when he came, and how did life really change? And we'll change. It'll all come to climax on Christmas Day when we do that video. But I want to encourage you that this is the best time to really be truly alive, and things that are going to come easier for you than they've ever come, and you got to be prepared to be able to handle them. Amen? See you in a bit.